And welcome back. We are wrapping things up with Jeff Grant. He's the co-founder of the Progressive Prison Ministries in Greenwich, a former New York City lawyer. He lost his license more than 10 years ago after he was convicted of scamming the federal government for a fraudulent loan. He is focused now on his faith and counseling other white-collar offenders make the complicated transition from prison. He's a minister of the hedge funders, they call him. I saw it somewhere. I kind of love that. So people looking here say, wait, here's the difference. This guy here, why should we treat him different than the blue-collar criminal? You know, he's a well-heeled lawyer, speaks well, grew up well. Why should we have any more compassion for this guy than for the guy who dropped out of school, didn't have a job, and had to sling drugs? Whatever. Well, how do you respond to that? Well, you're not the face of the, when people think ex-offender, you're not the face of that, right?
I think everyone deserves compassion. Everyone deserves a second chance. The resources are woefully poor for anybody who comes out of prison. And I think that it's a misconception that people who've committed white-collar crimes have it easier when they come out, because in truth, they're trained for something, or they have licenses, and very few can go back to their old jobs. Right. And they're struggling like everyone else. And if you can't drive an Uber, if you have a felony, you can't drive an Uber. If you have a street crime, you can't drive an Uber if you have a white-collar crime. It's all the same. Right.
So that's beginning to change, though. It seems like the mentality is changing. Prison as punishment versus prison for rehabilitation. And it seems that there's a sea change, that more folks are starting to say, you know what, you can't just punish them in prison. They committed a crime, they're paying the price by being there, but the idea is to try to have them come out as better people, not to beat them down in punishment. Where, one example, I was talking to a friend of mine who was a guest here, who was also an ex-offender. He said the internet, he said people don't realize, they punish a lot of inmates with not denying them internet access or computer access as sort of a punishment. Not, the reality that when they come out of society, they need those skills to get a meaningful job. So, in the day, while they're being punished, you're not really moving along with the rehabilitation process because you have to work the computer in real life. And so, those kind of things. Can you talk about that sort of the punishment with about 2 minutes mentality?
Well, I mean, to be really topical, two things that are going on that affect people here in Connecticut, and certainly the white-collar population in Connecticut and in federal prisons throughout the country, is one is prison phone calls. Right. I'm an advocate for free prison phone calls.
Right now, it's quite a racket, right? Right now, as I understand it, the inmates, the families are charged X amount of cents per minute. The family has to call the prison. The state takes a cut off that. And so for a lot of folks who are of limited means, it becomes financially burdensome to call their inmate.
Well, they charge $5 for 15 minutes on a landline, so that's crazy. But legislation...
$5 for 15 minutes, right, okay. So and the state gets a nice cut off of that, right?
True.
So it's a business enterprise.
But legislation coming up, championed in the legislature by Representative Josh Elliott and State Senator Gary Winfield. And so that legislation's coming up, and we like... all of our legislators.
Does it have legs on it, though? It's coming up, but it'll have legs?
It came close last session, and I think
folks, it brings in around, I think, $7 million in revenue to the state, so it's become a profit margin.
Well, the business case is certainly the problem, the money. Right. And then another issue I want to make sure is that at least we're mentioning here in the last moment is that, coronavirus in prisons is going to become a huge topic. On our website, prisonist.org, we have a blog running by someone who's about to leave prison, and he's scared to death because he's going to walk into prison as someone who's been on the outside and into the most at-risk environment you could possibly be in.
And sometimes they're a low priority, in dealing with that kind of situation.
Every time,
You got to wrap it again, running tide again. All right, thanks to our guest. We really appreciate it, Reverend Jeff. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Remember, Real People with Stan Simpson airs Sunday mornings, 10:30, following The Real Story with Al Terzi and Jen Bernstein. It's Connecticut's new Sunday Power Hour for the good folks here at Fox 61. I'm Stan Simpson. See you next week.